This next article is from Tim. It's from the World Socialist website, which means it's probably Russian. Tim, also probably Russian. He probably sent me this article from the Kremlin, and I fell for it. But anyway, let's fall for it together. Tens of thousands of striking Matamoros Mexican workers marched to border to appeal to U.S. workers. Interesting. The strike by 70,000 Mecloradora workers in Matamoros, Mexico, has entered its second week and continues to intensify each day. Yesterday, workers held a protest titled "A Day Without Workers" to demonstrate that it is the working class, not the unions or the bosses, that generates all of society's wealth. Photos circulating on social media showed deserted factories and union bureaucrats struggling to keep production lines operating after workers put down their tools en masse. Over 50 factories have now stopped production as a result of the strike, costing corporations an estimated $100 million over the course of 1 week. After refusing to show up to work, the auto parts and electrical workers held a massive march through the city of 500,000, chanting, "We will win this fight no matter what. The workers united will never be defeated," and "Empty plants, a day without workers." The strike in Matamoros, like any significant movement of the masses, is characterized by the striving for social equality. The demands of the Matamoros workers, a 20% wage increase, a bonus of $1,700, a shorter work week, and cuts to union dues, are class issues that unite all workers regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, or national origin. In the course of their struggle, the workers are instinctively seeking to form links across irrational nation-state boundaries. Interesting. The events in Matamoros are the progressive answer to the nationalism and anti-immigrant chauvinism of Donald Trump and the U.S. and Canadian trade unions. By erecting walls and fences, the ruling elites all around the world have artificially divided workers that are exploited by the same company in different portions of the production process. Interesting article. You know, it's so... Whenever you hear of, like, strikes in other countries, it kind of makes you a little envious in the United States. You know what I mean? They're striking for a 20% raise. They're striking for better conditions. They're striking for not as high dues. And then here in the United States, we're striking for stuff that we should have just had. You shouldn't have had a full-time librarian. You should have had a full-time nurse. You shouldn't have 46 kids to a classroom. Like, we're striking for things that we should take for granted. California, 5th largest economy in the world. I grew up in Pennsylvania. We had a counselor. We had a nurse. It's like, and you know, it's just really interesting when you see what Germany does. We want a 28-hour work week. When you see what they're doing in France, and you know, I'm not trying to disparage anything. I stand with the teachers 110%. I salute the people that are out there. I call for nationwide strikes, but I know that's easier said than done. It's easier said than done when people are working 2 and 3 jobs just to put food on the table. They can't afford to go 2 weeks without a paycheck. And I get that. I don't know how to orchestrate a nationwide strike. I just know we need one. I don't know how to do it. I wish I did. All I can say is I want to help any way that I can. You know, because people, Ron, the strike doesn't apply to you. I know that, so I want to be a communication vessel. Let me help that way. Let me help in that way. You know, if we ever have a nationwide strike, if I'm on tour, all of my shows are free for people involved with the strike. I'll help that way. So if you like my comedy, that's if you don't like my comedy, you're fucked. You're like, I wanted a better world for my children, and all I got was this free Ron Placone show. Son of a bitch. That sucks. All I got was this free Ron Placone show. Not fair. But anyway, yeah. So I applaud them for that strike. You know, I like seeing strikes, and I like that the workers are united. And how do we build something like that in the United States? I don't know. I mean, that's... it just seems so big and unattainable, when you think about it. And part of it really is, in the literal sense, our country is so fucking big. I mean, that's part of it. When other societies kind of look at the United States and they say, like, it's weird that the United States has no kind of comprehensive identity. A lot of people from different countries, like European countries, they kind of look at that and when they say it, they don't mean like we're all supposed to think exactly the same or agree on everything, or and they're certainly not advocating nationalism or anything like that. They don't mean it in that way. They just mean kind of a commonplace understanding of, this is what our society is working towards. These are some values that are helping us get there. This is essentially what the government's for. The United States doesn't have a commonplace understanding on those things, and other societies kind of do. Now, I'm not implying every single citizen has a common step or anything like that. That's not the case. But there's more of a common third mind, comparatively speaking. And I don't think the reason we don't have one is because we're incapable of it. I think part of the problem is we're just so fucking big, and I think that is part of it. And I know a lot of other countries have a ton of space too, but it's not utilized. Like, we have people everywhere. And we have so many cultural differences that we could easily be like 4 or 5 countries when you break it down. So I think that's part of the reason why we can't, or not that we can't, but why it's so much harder to wrap one's head around the idea of us kind of standing in solidarity in a nationwide strike and saying we deserve living wages, workers deserve better. The wealth disparity in this country has gotten out of hand beyond comprehension. And you know what? I've read Adam Smith too. A lot of people like to forget the small gaps between the rich and the poor that guy was calling for. Read Wealth of Nations. Like, seriously, really read Wealth of Nations. Cover to cover, read Wealth of Nations. One of the texts that is pointed to justify conservatism and capitalism. And yes, some of those early ideas are in there. The idea of markets, that is in there. By the way, you can have market-based socialism. By the way, that's a fucking thing. You can have that. But if you really read in between the lines, I've said it many times. If Wealth of Nations came out today, it would be considered center-left, if not left, and Fox News would pan it because it's 600 pages and there are no pictures. That's how far our Overton window has shifted. So whenever you hear some Ayn Randian argument and they point to Wealth of Nations or something like that, really read that book. Really read that book. The discrepancy, the income inequality, the gap between the rich and the poor we have in this country, nobody ever saw that coming. Nobody ever saw that coming, nor were they calling for it. And there's nothing pragmatic about an incremental solution to a catastrophic problem. Showing up to the polls and just pulling the lever for the lesser of two evils isn't going to get us out of this mess. It's not. We need direct action. We need direct action, nonviolent action, but direct action by strikes and protests and causes and local alliances. My producer Pasta, his show, The Convo Couch, they're really getting on the ground locally and reporting local stuff that's going on right in Pasadena where I live. And I'm like, this needs to happen. Someone needs to do that. And I was talking to him on Sunday and I was saying, we need to form an alliance like Gail McLaughlin did in Richmond. That's what we need. We need an alliance. And my role in alliance is asshole comedian, and that's my role. I picked it. And communication vessel or whatever, that's my role. And we need people running for city council. We need people, we need people to take up different causes. My cause is municipal broadband. we need people to do all those things and form an alliance. And when you do that, you can kick big oil out of your community. Ask Gal McLaughlin. Ask Gal McLaughlin. See what she did over in Richmond when she fought big oil and won. If we duplicated Richmond in every community in the country, we'd live in a different world. We really would. And, you know, I know we talk about it sometimes when you beat your head up against the wall about electoral politics, it can seem very hopeless. And it can seem very just, holy fuck, what do I do? But then you look in your backyard and you realize, wait, I can do something here. There's a fight for me to have here, and I'm going to start having it. I can bring municipal broadband to my neighborhood. What is municipal broadband? It takes the internet out of the corporation's hands. It takes the internet out of big tech's hands, and it puts it into the hands of the city. So instead, you're paying your internet bill to your community instead of to Comcast or AT&T or any one of those companies who wants to dictate what people are going to allow you to see on the internet so that they can make a profit. It takes them out of the equation. It takes the predators out of the equation. Just like universal health care, single-payer health care, takes the predators, the for-profit insurance companies, out of the equation. And I can do that in my community. It's not going to be easy. I'm not guaranteed success, but I got a shot. Because other communities have done. There's internet co-ops now. There's the Institute of Local Self-Reliance, who is building these networks all around the country. So I don't know exactly how to start a nationwide movement. I don't know exactly how to do that. But I know that if you start doing something in your backyard, that's where it's all going to begin. It's going to happen from the bottom up. So, and when you see what people can do in other countries that have a better base as far as workers' rights, as far as, you know, a smaller gap between the rich and the poor, you know, they really do have a lot of power. And you know, those societies aren't perfect. I'm not going to sit here and say Germany's perfect. Of course they're not. Spain's not perfect. Of course they're not. England's not perfect. Of course they're not. But, you know, we kind of got to look at the progress that they've made, and we kind of have to say, well, how can we get to that point here? Because right now, we are really just trying to get stuff that never should have been taken away in the first place.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your